Hello, everyone. Thank you for signing on today's Amtrak Vacations 7 bucket list rail journeys that you folks need to experience. I'm so excited and so thankful to have you all on the presentation this morning. Here I am popping up onto your screen, your host, Jarrett Kettinger. I'm one of the business development executives here with Amtrak Vacations. Now, I do acknowledge I look a little young by my picture there, folks. That's the reality of the thing. However, I've actually been with Amtrak Vacations for going on 6 years now. What does that mean? Well, if any of you folks have any questions at all, whatever it may be, whether it's in regards to our packages, whether it's in regards to the Amtrak rail system, or even just generalized questions at all, don't hesitate to type them into the questions box on the side of the GoToWebinar panel, and I will answer any and all questions at the end of the presentation. And folks, you are going to want to stay on right up until the end of the presentation today, because we have a special prize that will be announced for one of you lucky attendees at the end of today's Q&A session. Now, we do have a handout for you folks on a bunch of our new national parks packages. So we actually have a flyer that you can download right from the side of the GoToWebinar panel about our brand new packages to the national parks. So feel free to go ahead and click on that and download it and take it along with you. Now here we have popping up onto your screen the Amtrak Vacations systems map. Everywhere you folks are seeing a colorful squiggly line, that's a route that Amtrak travels on. Everywhere you folks are seeing a navy blue dot with a city listed next to it, that's a destination that Amtrak Vacations has a package that it goes to, incorporating sightseeing, attractions, hotels, so lodging at the destination, and of course, the very fun Amtrak rail experience. We do cross the border up into Canada. We cross up into Montreal, Niagara Falls, Toronto, and Vancouver. We can do cross-Canada via rail packages. And folks, we can even do packages up into the Canadian Rockies. You may or may not even see a package example on the presentation today. Now, what makes Amtrak Vacations different? Well, we have 6 key points, folks, and we're expanding more and more. We're coming for 7 points, but 6 key points for now. Number 1, it's a bucket list experience. I can't tell you how many of our past travelers said that the number 1 reason they traveled with Amtrak alone was that it was an opportunity to check an item off of their personal bucket list. Room to roam. With Amtrak, you can get up and walk around the train at your leisure. Head down to the cafe car. Head down to the dining car at the meal times. Or my personal favorite, the Observation Dome Lounge. We know what it's like on an airline. Even when the fasten seatbelt sign in the airline is turned off, if you get up to go down to the lavatory and you kind of queue up there, you tend to get some nasty or stern looks from the airline attendants. That doesn't happen with Amtrak. You can get up and walk around and stretch your legs at your leisure. Less hassle, because all you have to do to book is call us at 1-800-268-7252 or work with your local travel agent. If you have a preferred travel agent, you can work through them as well. And then less hassle when you go on your trips, because we provide all of the necessary information, whether it's the hotel address, the phone numbers, instructions, where to go to catch the tours. All of that is on your travel documents, which we send out 30 days prior to departure for your review. City-to-city service. We travel from downtown city to downtown city all throughout the USA and Canada. In fact, there's over 500 different stations to choose to travel through on the Amtrak rail system. Satisfying your hunger. Whenever you have a sleeping compartment on the train, either a roomette or a bedroom, and I will cover what those look like later on in the presentation, all your meals are included within the cost of the cabin. And then flexibility. You may see a bunch of itineraries on the presentation today that look exciting and adventurous to you, but you may say, hey, I want to change it a little bit. I want to add, or I want to subtract, or I want to combine. Again, we're very flexible. We can customize any of our packages to fit your particular travel needs. Now, what does customize mean? Well, let's take a package example. So, Rails to the Grand Canyon. For you folks, just to know, the Rails to the Grand Canyon starts in Los Angeles, travels overnight on the Southwest Chief down to the Grand Canyon area, spends 2 nights in the Grand Canyon with some sightseeing, and then travels back overnight on the train back to LA. Well, you may say, well, I like the itinerary, but this package only does 2 nights in the Grand Canyon. I've never been there before. I might want to hike down to the bottom of the rim. So I want to add a third night or a fourth night to the itinerary. No problem. Or you may say the starting from property on the package, that looks nice, but I've always heard about this El Tavar place in the Grand Canyon, the lodging right on the rim. Can I stay there? Well, as long as we have availability, we'll upgrade you into the El Tavar. No problem as well. Then you may say, well, I'm not from the Los Angeles area. I've never actually been there, and I'm flying all the way out to catch the train to go to the Grand Canyon. I might as well spend a couple of nights stay in Los Angeles. So we may add a Los Angeles getaway with a couple of nights stay in the city with a Stars Homes trolley tour so you can see how the lap of luxury, all the movie stars live before or after your trip to the Grand Canyon. No problem at all. Ending in your personal customized vacation. Or we may even marry 2 itineraries together. So we have the very popular Glacier National Park Express that does 2 nights in Chicago before going overnight on the Empire Builder out to Glacier National Park for 3 nights in Glacier before finishing the route out to Seattle for 2 nights in Seattle. Then you may say, well, I've made it all the way out to the Pacific Northwest. I might as well spend a couple extra nights and visit into Vancouver and Victoria. And so we may combine the Glacier National Park Express with the Seattle, Vancouver, Victoria rail journey, again, creating your own personal customized trip. Now, one very common question is, how much luggage can I bring on the train? What should I begin to expect when getting to the train station and packing for the train? Well, you're allowed 2 carry-ons of up to 50 pounds each and 2 check luggage of up to 50 pounds each. That's per person, and that's completely free. And as opposed to getting to the airlines or the airports, 2 hours, 3 hours, if it's an international flight, you can get to the train station an hour to 45 minutes prior to the train departure and still comfortably board the train. Now, I hope everyone is, as we like to say, all aboard as we jump in and start talking about the 7 bucket list rail journeys that you need to travel on with Amtrak Vacations. The number 1, Great American Majestic Landscapes. Now, there's multiple reasons why you're going to want to take this trip. First reason is that you're going to travel through major U.S. cities, New York City, Chicago, Denver, and San Francisco, while also incorporating Rocky Mountain National Park, so you get a national park incorporated there, as well as a trip out to wine country by way of San Francisco. Number 2, you're going to be traveling from Chicago out to the West Coast on the California Zephyr, the number 1 most scenic rail route in the United States. So it speaks to itself why you would want to go on one of these trips. You get 4 major U.S. cities, a national park, wine country, and the number 1 most scenic rail route in the United States on the Amtrak system. In New York City, we include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour that'll travel all throughout the Big Apple, whether you want to go to Fifth Avenue for shopping, whether you want to hit Times Square, whether you want to hit Central Park. The hop-on, hop-offs will drop you off at all those locations, and you can get on and off the tour at your leisure. We also include the hop-on, hop-off tour in Chicago as well as an addition with the Chicago City Pass, giving you admission to the Skydeck Chicago at the Willis Tower, the Shed Aquarium, which is one of the most popular aquariums in the United States, the Field Museum with the most complete and largest Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton, that is Sue the T-Rex, right in the entryway, all included in the Chicago City Pass. And for multiple attractions, it's also a fast pass ahead of the lines to get into those museums. In Denver, you'll spend 2 nights with a full-day Rocky Mountain National Park tour. That park tour is absolutely phenomenal. It picks up at the Chicago Union Station right downtown in the quote-unquote Lodo area, as it's called in Denver. It'll take you out into the park. You'll hit several scenic overlook points as well as wildlife viewing in Rocky Mountain National Park, and you'll actually have alternative return options for routing back into Denver at the end of the day, and you'll have a full day tour to experience Rocky Mountain National Park. And then while staying in San Francisco, we include a full day tour through several wineries in Napa and Sedona to complete the trip. So that is the Great American Majestic Landscapes, incorporating New York City, Chicago, Denver, Denver Rocky Mountain National Park, San Francisco, and wine country, most of which is done on the #1 scenic railroad, the California Zephyr. The next itinerary we're going to talk about, I highlighted a little bit earlier in the presentation. That is the Glacier National Park Express. Now, just to give you folks a little bit of insight, we did a little bit of polling over the past couple of weeks. The Glacier National Park Express was coming up as the second most sold rail journey of the past several months. This package starts in Chicago with 2 nights in Chicago. It then travels overnight on the Empire Builder out to Glacier National Park for 3 nights in Glacier, and then finishes the route on the Empire Builder out to Seattle for 2 nights in Seattle to cap off the trip. In Chicago, we give you a sightseeing architecture cruise that'll travel out onto the Chicago River. Chicago itself is known for its beautiful architecture, and so this is a wonderful way to experience the city. Now, up in Glacier, we include the Big Sky Circle Tour. So that is a full, all-encompassing tour of the park. In fact, you can see the red buses highlighted in the slide here that'll travel all throughout the park. Those buses have a retractable roof, so you can quite literally stick your head right up through the roof of the vehicle as you're traveling all throughout the park. Additionally, we include a Medicine Valley boat cruise, which is a very scenic and serene cruise right out onto Two Medicine Valley Lake. Now, we can't guarantee that you're always going to have a national park ranger incorporated on the tour, but I would say about 6 out of 10 times there is a national park ranger that will be on the boat cruise and assisting with the commentary. After the time in Glacier, we send you out to Seattle to cap off the trip with a sightseeing tour throughout Seattle. So you'll get to see Pike's Market, the waterfront, Seattle City Center, where you will stop and have admission to both the Space Needle, which is basically synonymous with Seattle culture at this point, as well as the Chihuly Garden and Glass exhibit. That is giant blown glass structures made by the very eccentric glass blowing artist Dale Chihuly, that is in a big garden at the base of the Space Needle. So that, folks, is the Glacier National Park Express. And again, like I said, it's topping some of our most popular independent rail journeys for sales for 2019. And folks, my best piece of advice is anything to do with Glacier, you're going to want to book ASAP. So if that means you call us today and get it booked, that is the best possible option for you. Now, I would definitely say this next itinerary is a top 7 bucket list rail experience, the Glacier National Park and the Canadian Rockies. This travels from Chicago on the Empire Builder out to Glacier National Park for 2 nights in Glacier, where you will absolutely have both the Big Sky Circle Tour and the Two Medicine Valley boat cruise incorporated on the trip. After the 2 nights in Glacier, you'll travel overnight, finishing the route on the Empire Builder out to Seattle, where you'll cut up through the Cascades Mountain Range train up into Vancouver for 2 nights in Vancouver before boarding the Canadian Via Rail train from Vancouver up into Jasper for 1 night in Jasper, 2 nights in Banff, and then ending down in Calgary, which is just a real easy city to get an international flight out of. Like I said, for Glacier, we include the Two Medicine Valley boat cruise as well as the Big Sky Circle Tour done on those red buses that'll travel all throughout the park. During the stay in Vancouver, we include the hop on, hop off tour of the city. So if you wanted to get off down in Chinatown or the Vancouver waterfront, here you can see the Pacific Science Center with the giant dome that's all lit up in the slide right here. If you wanted to get off in the city center, you can get on and off at your leisure. It is a hop on, hop off tour. And you also have admission to the Vancouver Lookout Tower, which is very cool. You'll travel right up through a giant tower that overlooks 360-degree views of the city. I've done it myself. It is absolutely magnificent. After that, you'll travel on the Canadian Via Rail train up into Jasper and have a scenic sightseeing tour of Jasper, as well as an excursion on the Icefields Parkway. And then you'll travel through Banff for sightseeing tours of the mountains, lakes, and waterfalls tour of Banff and Lake Louise. And that is the Glacier National Park and Canadian Rockies tour. Now, for the next couple of tours, we actually have some new special booking discounts on these trending destinations. In fact, these booking discounts are so exciting. We're able to take a little bit of discount off of each of these packages, and that is right up until April 11th. So what does that mean? Well, if you have any interest in booking any of these itineraries, you're definitely going to want to call and book before April 11th. Kind of speaks for itself, such as the Rails to the Grand Canyon. This itinerary starts in Los Angeles. It travels overnight on the train out to historic Route 66, Williams, Arizona, before taking the Grand Canyon Railway train into the south rim of the canyon for 2 nights in the Grand Canyon. Now, this package is based in coach accommodations, or economy accommodations is the alternative way to say it, on the Grand Canyon Railway. I would highly advise always checking with Amtrak Vacations or whatever travel agent you book through on upgrading to first class or luxury parlor or luxury dome class on the Grand Canyon Railway. The reason? For first class, you have refreshments included on the train as well as more comfortable seating. Then the luxury parlor and luxury dome class are actually refurbished American Orient Express cars that have been put on the Grand Canyon Railway services. This package spends 2 nights in the canyon with sightseeing. In fact, the sightseeing includes 3 scenic overlook points of the south rim of the canyon before taking the train back out to Williams and then going overnight to Los Angeles. And there is a special $100 discount booking offer on this package. So that is the Rails to the Grand Canyon itinerary. This next itinerary is one of our top selling for 2019. We just launched it in late 2018, and it's already jumped up to the top of the best sellers list. And this also happens to have a special booking offer affiliated with it, which is $100 off per couple as well, as long as you book before April 11th. This travels out on the very scenic California Zephyr from Chicago out to Grand Junction, Colorado. You'll arrive in Grand Junction and spend 1 night at a hotel there. The next day, you wake up, and it's a very unique opportunity and a unique itinerary because you're not going to be on a 30, 40 person bus traveling throughout the national parks. In fact, what's unique about this itinerary is that you're going to have your own private driver, so your own private guide service in a private luxury SUV, either a GMC Denali, Cadillac Escalade, Chevy Suburban, driving you through the national parks over the next consecutive days. So you'll wake up in Grand Junction, the private guide service will be there waiting for you. You board the vehicle and you'll travel through Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. Now, like I said, it's very customizable, these itineraries. This one in particular, because you'll be on your own with your guide service. So, for example, many people like to take pictures of Arches National Park as it's lit up in the evening time as the sun is setting over the national park. So you may instruct your driver to drive through Canyonlands National Park in the morning and then hit Arches National Park in the afternoon, early evening, as the sun is setting over the beautiful orange arches for picture taking opportunity. That's just one example of how customizable these itineraries are. The driver will continue west to Springdale, Utah, where you'll spend one night in Springdale. The next day you'll wake up. You'll have a full day tour through Zion National Park. Again, to describe how customizable and deferential these tours are. Say you're traveling through the park with your significant other and you're feeling a little famished. You may tell the driver, okay, well, at the next stop, we really want to pull over to grab some lunch. Or you may be driving by a beautiful mountainscape or a beautiful lake and tell the driver, hey, can you pull over so I can get a picture taking opportunity with my significant other right around this beautiful scenic area? They'll do that as well. Very customizable, very deferential to your travel desires. After the full day tour through Zion, the tour will go back to Springdale for one additional night before heading back east through Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef National Park, back to Grand Junction for one more night in Grand Junction before boarding the California Zephyr back to Chicago. Now, these next slides should tell you why you would want to travel through these national parks. This is an amazing picture of Arches National Park, and you can see why someone might want to spend a little bit extra time for picture taking opportunity through the park. An amazing shot of the rock formations in Zion National Park, which you will have a full day tour through the park. And then another beautiful picture of Capitol Reef, which you'll experience on the day tour through Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef National Parks. So that is the Grand National Parks of the Southwest. And again, folks, there is a special booking offer for that through April 11th. And then our last bucket list experience trip, Grand National Parks with Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon. This travels overnight from Chicago, going out to Salt Lake City for one night in Salt Lake City before traveling up into Yellowstone National Park for 2 nights in Yellowstone, where you'll have a full day tour through the lower loop of Yellowstone, which covers the beautiful Painted Pots Highway with all of the amazing and very colorful hot springs, as well as the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. And you are guaranteed to see Old Faithful Geyser erupt on the tour. After that, you'll travel back to Salt Lake City. In that night, board the California Zephyr to continue west to San Francisco for 2 nights in San Francisco with a full day tour to Yosemite National Park. So what's nice about that tour is it travels out in the morning. You'll go through a morning tour of the national park, and then you're actually given a couple of free hours to explore Yosemite on your own. So if you want to walk around the walking paths, which from what I hear are very tamped down, so they're very easy to walk through with lots of proper signage to explore the park. If you want to just grab some lunch amongst nature, you can do that as well. And then you'll board the Coast Starlight after your 2 nights in San Francisco, which the Coast Starlight is voted #2 most scenic rail route in the United States, to head down to Los Angeles. Now, what's really nice about that ride is you'll travel right along some of the beautiful untouched beaches out on the Pacific Ocean. It's very scenic. I actually saw baby otters swimming and playing right from the window of the train. You'll spend 1 night in Los Angeles before taking the Southwest Chief out to Williams for 1 night in Williams, 1 night in the Grand Canyon with sightseeing tour throughout the South Rim, and then take the Southwest Chief back to Chicago. So here you can see some of the very vivid and beautiful hot springs that'll travel throughout the park. You are going to want to stay on those walk paths because those hot springs, those suckers, are quite hot. It's in the name itself, so you're going to stay there, but you can get plenty of picture taking opportunity. Here we have some lower loop of Yellowstone tour travelers. We have Nick Bennell, who is one of the other business development executives. You have Sam Bridge from our London office. Nick Kozlowski, who is our sales team supervisor. He's in the Adidas hat. You have Joseph, who is a booking agent. You have Alicia in marketing, and the very famous Michael Milos, the wizard of technology, right in front of the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. You also have a great example of the Old Faithful erupting right in the park. You'll have a full day tour through Yosemite National Park. Again, that gives you a morning tour to experience the major sightseeing overlook points of Yosemite, and then you have a few free hours to explore the park on your own. And then, important to highlight, the Majestic Grand Canyon, which you will go down. You'll experience the round trip services on the Grand Canyon Railway. Again, I would always check about upgrading to first class or the luxury parlor car or luxury dome class on the Grand Canyon Railway, as well as the Motor Coach Freedom Rim Tour. They'll stop at 3 scenic overlook points of the Grand Canyon. So this was our last national park 7 bucket list experience. We have one more round the country, basically, big loop tour to highlight. That was our last national park one. We have one more Grand Rail experience. Departs from Chicago, does 2 nights overnight on the Empire Builder out to Seattle for 2 nights in Seattle before taking the extremely scenic Coast Starlight from Seattle, doing the full run down to Los Angeles for 1 night in LA, then taking the Sunset Limited from LA out to New Orleans for 2 nights in New Orleans before going up on the Crescent up to Washington, D.C. for 1 night in D.C., and then finishing on the Capital Limited out to Chicago. So that was the last before of the national park tours. Here is the last big of the 7th of the bucket list trips, because this is just does a giant loop right around the country, hitting some of the most scenic and some of the most important routes on the Amtrak rail system. In Seattle, we include a sightseeing tour of the city. In Los Angeles, we include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour to travel out through Los Angeles. So whether you want to go up to the Hollywood sign, head out onto Santa Monica Boulevard, whether you want to hit the Strip and walk around there and see all of the big the stars of the stars in Grauman's Chinese Theater, you can do that. In New Orleans, we have a sightseeing tour of New Orleans that'll travel through the French Quarter, out to the bayous, out to the Garden District. In DC, you have by far my favorite sightseeing tour that we offer here at Amtrak Vacations. It's the Monuments by Moonlight tour that travels out in the evening time on a trolley. It picks up in Union Station, and it goes to several of the major monuments as they're illuminated in their glory and their pride in the evening time. Great for picture taking opportunity. So that is the Grand Rail experience, the 7th of the 7 bucket list train trips to travel with Amtrak Vacations. Now, next, I'm going to talk about some of the onboard accommodations on the train, as well as some of our discounts. And then I see some of you folks have already sent in some questions for our Q&A. I'll answer them then. If anyone still has any questions they haven't typed in and asked yet, feel free to go ahead and start doing that. Now, the first level of accommodation is coach accommodations that are two big plush seats with plenty of legroom. I hope we can convey that by the picture here. There is plenty of legroom. It's almost exact the opposite of it how it is on an airline, with a leg rest that'll kick up, a tray table that will fold down, a big picture window to enjoy the sights out of, outlets to charge your devices in, plenty of room above head for your luggage. The seats do recline at a 45-degree angle, and there is plenty of quote unquote room to roam to get up and walk around the train at your leisure. Now, the next level up is the sleeper roomette, which is your own private cabin on the train, which are two big plush seats that face each other, a nice big picture window to enjoy the sights out of, plenty of room to get up and walk around the train at your leisure. Again, you're not confined to these cabins like you're not confined to your seat on the train. You can walk around the train, go down the cafe car, the dining car, the observation lounge. So even if you have a cabin, you're not confined to your cabin. There's a door that will shut and lock with blinds that will go over the window for your privacy. At night, as you can see by the diagram, everything folds down to bunk style sleeping accommodations. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, I'm looking at this slide and I'm not seeing any bathrooms. You'd be correct. The bathrooms are down the hall. There's 4 bathrooms to every roomette car, and only those staying in the roomette car actually have access to those bathrooms. Additionally, there is a train car attendant that's constantly going in and cleaning out those bathrooms. However, if it's important to you to have your own private cabin with your own shower and bathroom on the train, the next level up is the sleeper bedroom, which is a bigger room with a long couch, a captain's chair, a big picture window. Everything still folds down to bunk style sleeping accommodations, but you have your own bathroom and shower in the room itself. Now, dining on the train is included with a full chef inspired menu to choose from with full cook to order meals. In fact, we like to refer to the dining hall on the train as our quote unquote rolling restaurant. Now, for breakfast, you could always get eggs, bacon, and toast, a fresh omelet cooked to order, or if you're a kid or a kid at heart, the quote unquote choo choo French toast. For lunch, there's a juicy cheeseburger option, a couple of sandwiches to pick from, a big salad. We like to refer to it as the quote unquote the big salad here with some grilled chicken on it. For dinner, there's always a special of the evening, a chicken option, pasta option, or my favorite, the Amtrak signature steak. And that does pair nicely with a glass of Merlot. I won't tell you how I figured that one out. You can take that at at your guess, and save room for dessert because there is always dessert included with lunch and dinner. And folks, hey, you're on vacations. Why not enjoy having a sweet tooth? Now, how to do a little research on us. Feel free to log on to amtrakvacations.com. My suggestion is click on the Destinations tab because a little tab will drop down with East Coast trips, West Coast trips, national parks, rail and sail, round trip, all types of packages for you to do a little research and take a look at. There's some maps with the itineraries. It's all great. So feel free to jump on amtrakvacations.com to do a little research on us. Now, how to book? Well, we would highly encourage you to give us a phone call. Call us at 1-800-268-7252. You can even call in and ask for a specific agent, such as Tyler Claypool. He's a great guy. We have some great agents waiting on the line, waiting for you to give us a call. Feel free to do a little research, like I said, at amtrakvacations.com to equip you a little bit ahead of time. Or you could even call your local travel agent. If you're a AAA member, go to your local AAA agency. If you have a local travel agent that you've worked in the past that you feel comfortable working with again, I'm sure they can always give us a call as well. We're happy to book you through there. Now, everyday discounts. Seniors 65 and older receive a 10% discount. Important to note on the rail portion of the Amtrak package. Children aged between 2 to 12 years old receive half off, 50% off the rail portion of an Amtrak package. And then any active military personnel, their spouses, as well as dependents, receive a 10% discount on the rail portion of an Amtrak package. Now, folks, I want to say thank you for joining us. I see we already have some questions typed into the questions box on the GoToWebinar panel. If anyone has any additional questions, don't hesitate to start typing them in now as well. Just give me a moment or two. It's going to go just a little quiet while I read the first couple of questions so I can start answering them as you continue to type them in. But I just want to say for any of you that might jump off, thank you for joining us today.